Alright everyone, just making a weird video, rambly today. It has really nothing to do with my usual content, but it's just something that I've been thinking about for a while. And you guys may or may not know, I don't know if I've talked about it a lot on this channel, but I consider the Matrix Trilogy to be one of my favorite trilogies. At least I had in the past considered it to be one of my all-time favorite trilogies. Really, in my opinion, at this point in my life, the only film trilogy that will probably always stay perfection is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But I used to consider the Matrix to be quite up there, and while I still like it quite a bit, I've just been thinking about it a lot, and you know, given the current state of the world that we live in, about how the Matrix actually kind of propagated a lot of the things that we're seeing in society. And what am I talking about? The main gist of it, I guess, is that nobody understands what reality is anymore. And nothing is really shocking either, as far as society goes. You know, like nothing is taboo. Everything is kind of on the table now, so to speak. There's no shame for men or women. You know, men aren't really expected to do anything now, because a lot of the reasons men did things in the past was to please the woman that they would eventually marry and have children with. But now, you know, that's not completely off the table. But you know, with this current state of divorce court and all the laws in the US, you know, it's more off the table now than it's ever been. We truly do live in a very odd time as far as men and women being able to find each other organically. But the thing about the Matrix that I've been thinking about is you know, the leftists of that era that created it, which is specifically the Wachowskis, they did have a point to it, because during that time, that was very much when the neocons were in power. You know, the George W. Bush and the unjust war in Iraq. You know, I'm very anti-war, so pretty much any war, in my opinion, is unjust if you dig deep enough. A lot of wars were unjust, and a lot of like previous wars would lead to the next war, and it's like a never-ending money printing cycle. I could get into that on a later day, but when they made the Matrix, you know, I think what they were doing was they were trying to, again, they were criticizing mostly neocons, because the Wachowskis are leftists. And at the time, it had a lot of value, because, you know, the left was not in power. The right had been in power. I think Jimmy Carter, before what we're dealing with now, like the Obama-Biden garbage, I think Jimmy Carter was the only like prominent leftist before FDR that held power. So for a long time, you know, the left was in power. A lot of people will say Clinton, but if you actually analyze Clinton, especially Hillary Clinton, they're very neocon. Actually, they just grifted off the left so that they could get elected after Reagan. But you know, a lot of their policies are extremely war. And you know, even Obama had a lot of things that he catered to the left, but ultimately he was just another war hawk as well. But that's what I'm going to get into, because it makes it even more ironic. But really, so the Matrix was made on the backset of that, where, you know, the government is fake, everything they're telling you is fake. It was a real subversion, right? And you're seeing that a lot now in like Marvel movies and like the new Star Wars. I remember when The Last Jedi came out in 2018, there was like a huge uproar over how shitty that movie was, and it was because of the subversive aspect to it. But I think with that movie, it was like they were subverting just to subvert, but they didn't really have a story to tell, whereas The Matrix very much did have a story to tell, even with all the Wachowski problems, like overblown action and stuff like that. But there are legitimately scenes in The Matrix, like the beginning of the movie, the scene where Morpheus is talking to Agent Smith, and he was saying how like the only way humans would accept the Matrix is if he made it look like the 1990s, because like any other type of Matrix that they would reject, right? They didn't want the utopia. And you know, that's pretty spot on to human nature, I think. But really, now that we're in the era of the Ukraine war and the Biden regime, you know, the left is in power, and they're basically the same war hawks that they criticized the Bush era of being. And so that's kind of what made me think about this movie again, is because what the Matrix has done is it's completely subverted everything to the point where we have almost destroyed any moral sense of right and wrong. You know, the left basically has become everything that they criticized, everything that they criticized during the Bush years. You know, like they're very pro-war, they're pro-censorship, I mean, this video right here, right? Like, I'm gonna upload it to YouTube, but this video could get censored, which is why follow me on Odyssey if you guys haven't yet. That's really where I would like to be posting more, so check that out if you haven't. I'll give a nice new tech plug here. But yeah, even this video could get censored because now the left is in power. The left owns Google, they own Alphabet, or Alphabet owns Google, Google owns YouTube, right? It's just this like leftist corporation. That's another thing about the left, is they always complain about fascism when they're pretty much the fascists, because they're the ones that are taking government handouts to help prop up their corporations, which is like the literal term of fascism. But again, we don't even know any of these things anymore, right? That is another word. The word fascism gets thrown around and people don't even know what it means. And again, this is what I think the Matrix did, because it really was a generational movie. I mean, I was very young when it came out. I think I was like 12 when I first saw it. It's more of like a Gen X movie, as far as, you know, the Gen Xers were early 20s when that came out. So it was a very generational movie. And it kind of, in a weird way, that's why that whole scene with Morpheus that I spoke about before with Agent Smith and Morpheus, in a way it feels like the world kind of did stop in the 1990s. And really after 9/11, right? Like, nothing has ever felt the same since 9/11. And again, I was a kid, but I do remember that was when, you know, they started talking about terrorism, and you had to like take your shoes off to get in a plane. It just started to become more micromanagey. Then we had the housing crisis, which I was in college at the time, so it didn't really affect me. But then after that, we had COVID, right? And now COVID's even worse. It's like the Patriot Act stepped up, because now everybody's literally just afraid to get this illness or whatever, and it's just wild. So again, a lot of this was pushed by the neocons. And keep in mind, I'm not really right or left. I would consider myself a conservative, but as far as political parties go nowadays, guys, that doesn't even matter. I would actually highly encourage anyone watching me right now to just go do your own research on just the world. Try to take off the political lens, because it's all bullshit at this point. I mean, the right and the left, for the most part, are pretty much in cahoots with each other. That was really solidified for me in the 2022 midterms. You know, honk honk, sorry. YouTube wants me to tell you that the elections in 2020 and 2022, guys, they were completely legit. So just want that to be solid. But yeah, basically as far as the political apparatus goes, you know, Trump was very right about this one thing. It is a swamp, and it is run by the left and the right, the left and the right. They just use those labels again. And it very much is a matrix, right? Like, we're sold hyper reality on a daily basis. And I guess the point of this video, to kind of wrap it up, is I think the Matrix was overall harmful for society, because what it did is it deconstructed everything to where we really, I think, like this gender stuff, and you can even look at the Wachowskis. That's what's ironic. And if you've seen the new Matrix, maybe I'll make a video on that. But that movie was very bad in a lot of ways. Not a lot of the ways that most people are talking about, though. But that movie was very bad because it was almost like a hardcore pornographic version of the Matrix, right? And, you know, there is a lot of meta stuff in it, but it just shows you the problem with the left. You know, the left likes to tell on themselves quite a bit, and that movie is just insane with it. And so what they've done at this point is the left is in power, and they've deconstructed everything to the point where most people have no meaning now. Like, let's just be real with ourselves. You know, we work our crappy jobs, Inflation keeps going up. You know, this is not everyone. There's a lot of people I know that have jobs that they really like, and but a lot of the reasons they do those jobs is because they have like a family. So that was what I was getting into. Like, we don't have the family values that we used to have. We just kind of live this consumerist lifestyle. You know, we don't know what gender we are. We don't know our identity. We don't know what a woman is, right? We don't know the point of a woman and a man, like why those two things exist. You know, we don't care about children. It's just like there's literally we have no meaning in society anymore. And if you think about the Matrix in that term, it is very Marxist, because it did deconstruct a lot, and it pushed the so-called revolution that the Marxists always talk about, right? And again, like I said, the Matrix is a generational movie. It's one of the most quoted as far as like greatest trilogies ever made. It's one of the most, like, if you look at the lists, right, that people make, that one's like always on there as Lord of the Rings. So it had its effect on culture, guys. You know, it led to things like the Marvel, the MCU, which I personally cannot stand the MCU. Everything about that is just horrible, dehumanizing, you know, anti-human propagandistic filth. So things like that, you know, it all came from the Matrix. It's like everything's downhill. What did Andrew Breitbart say? You know, culture is downstream from politics. I don't know if I agree with that completely. I think actually politics is downstream from culture, right? The culture changes, and then they start making political actions out of the changing culture. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to make that video, kind of a rambling video. If you guys liked this, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll actually make like a full critique of the Matrix movies. But I was just thinking about this today, and just wanted to make a video while I was driving around. So anyway, guys, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, please go ahead and hit the like button and consider subscribing. I really appreciate it. It helps the algorithm. And then, like I said, please be sure to check me out on the alternative tech platforms, because really YouTube is, you know, I got to be very tame on here. If I get enough followers on Odyssey, I can make videos about pretty much whatever the hell I want. So that would be my ultimate goal, but, you know, just kind of got to very surface level on YouTube still. So anyway, guys, thanks so much again. You have a good one.